All right, here we are, everyone. This is Dr. Tam and Rocky over here. And every single day, we want to give you information on how you can not only decrease your pain, function, and also increase your longevity. So I am excited about this topic. I got the information a little bit ago. So
Mhm.
let's roll.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. So, we are on the last episode of our series of talks about lifestyle change and how to actually start healing our bodies. So, for the past four episodes, we talked about food and nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress, and, how they affect our bodies. And, if not managed correctly, how do we get diseases, right, coming from these four pillars? Now, of course, in order to completely heal our bodies and decrease our pain, um, we also should look into healing our minds.
Mm,
So we all know the mind body effect, but we also have to understand the other direction, which is the body and mind effect. So, whatever we do to our bodies affects our minds and our brains, basically. So, our first question is, how does food play a role in our mental health?
oh, it's huge. Going back to a few videos, we talk about gut health, right? And leaky
Mm-hmm.
gut. And food, the reason why food plays a huge role is because food elicits a certain hormone production, whether it's insulin production, it elicits certain hormones to break down the food, gastric juices, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
colon. Um, Food, I believe, certain foods will either build your body or break down your body, right?
Right.
When
Right.
everything that we eat, it's either something that's going to be good for us or we know it's going to be bad for us. Most
Mm-hmm.
people can look at something and know, Rocky, they know that it's going to be bad, right?
Right.
It's not going
Mm-hmm.
to build their bodies and build their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people, let's use kids, for example. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you give a child, say, apple juice or orange juice, because juice has no fiber, right? And it gets
Right.
digested right away. And it goes through their bloodstream, liver, brain, boom. Because kids don't have a lot of control, they get wired. They're running
Mm-hmm.
around the place. They're like, oh my gosh, wow, 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 wow. I remember
Sugar rush. Right.
sugar rush. The
Mm-hmm.
first time we gave our daughter, because a neighbor was making icy, those Slurpees. They're like
Mm-hmm.
7-Eleven. They look like red, blue, green, all that.
Right. Right.
She had like half a cup. I mean, this much. Maybe when she was 4, okay, was the first time we're like, okay, let's have her take a sip. And, she drank like a quarter of a cup.
Mm-hmm.
She was standing there and twirling, like just spinning. She's like, oh, I'm like, what in the world has gotten into her? And my wife and I remember, oh my God, like 4 hours ago, she drank a Slurpee and it just completely wired her. Now, for adults, it does the same thing. It gives us that sugar rush, that sugar high. But what comes with a sugar high is a sugar low as
Mm,
well. And
right.
people who normally take in a lot of sugar, right, because it's a stimulant, they get deprived of that when they don't do it. And now they feel down. They feel depressed because they don't have that
Mm-hmm.
normal high that their body and their brain is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
See? And that's how it affects it. And in the long run, it's terrible because
Mm-hmm.
also Alzheimer and dementia has been known as diabetes type 3,
Mm-hmm.
type 3
Mm-hmm.
diabetes. And how it works is the sugar levels become too high. It causes the brain to inflame.
Uh-huh.
And now we start losing memory
Mm-hmm.
loss. First signs of memory loss is people walking into a room and not really understanding why they came in for the first place.
Why am I here? Right.
Why am I here? What did I come in for? They start
Yeah.
scratching their heads, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you
Right.
know the invention of GPS on the phones and the cars has delayed diagnosis of Alzheimer and dementia? You
Wow.
ever heard that
Really?
before? You want to know why?
No, no. Why?
That's because a lot of times, most people, when they first get dementia or Alzheimer's,
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things they experience is they're driving, and all of a sudden, they forget where they're going, or they forget how to go to a friend's house, or they forget how to go to their sister's house, or they forget how to go home. But because GPS, you can set that and it
Mm-hmm.
directs you where to go, you no longer have to remember where you're going. So at the earlier onset of dementia, where people before GPS
Mm-hmm.
used to think, oh my God, I just realized I don't know where I'm going.
Right.
People don't have that anymore because of the GPS. See, and now by the time dementia is or Alzheimer gets diagnosed, it's much later. And that is
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason.
And now they also have the ones that you stick on your phone or your keys, so
Yes,
it you can track them, right?
you can track them.
So, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And there was actually a study of, I think I watched this video in the past where they tried giving kids, like someone with ADHD, a
Yes.
kid who has ADHD, they tried giving them like healthy food, and it somehow improved the behavior, the mood of that kid. So there you can really see that, the effect of healthy food
Well, that's
for our
how
mind. Hmm.
people, if they ever look at the ketosis,
Hmm.
the
Right.
keto diet with the high fat of good healthy fats, I should say,
Hmm.
was developed initially because kids who had seizures,
Hmm.
kids who were really unhealthy, were put on the keto diet, and because of the lack of sugars and the increase in good fats, it actually healed the brain because our
The
brain is
brain.
mostly fat. If you
Yeah.
took a brain, okay, now this might sound a little gross. If someone had an accident and their skull got cut open, the brain you can actually almost scoop out. It's not
Okay.
hard and firm like a ball, like they show
Yeah.
you on TV.
Yeah.
The hard ball brains is because it's been infused with
Preserved.
formaldehyde and
Hmm.
chemicals.
Hmm.
The brain itself is actually really soft. You scoop it out like butter almost.
So it's like fat, really.
It's very fat, very fat.
Hmm.
See, and that's what people don't realize.
All right. So what would you say would be, the top three foods that we should avoid to improve our mental health?
To avoid,
Yeah,
ooh,
to
this is
improve,
a good one.
to avoid, yeah.
To avoid, well, one is going to be your high sugar foods,
Hmm.
your syrups, your cookies, your
High fructose.
donuts, right? The ones with high fructose corn syrup,
Hmm. Hmm.
and refined sugars. Gotta avoid those. Number two, avoid the ones that is in drinks. Your Coca-Cola, Sprites, 7-Ups, right? All these
Hmm.
carbonated bad drinks for you. Everyone knows that it's bad,
That is
but
bad.
people still do it. All right. So
Hmm.
sugary foods, sugary drinks. Number
Hmm.
two. Okay. And I'll say that the third thing that people should really look at as foods to really, really avoid is going to be your deep fried foods that have the bad oils,
Oil. Hmm.
canola oil, vegetable oil, right? Because those foods have so much chemicals that it can cause a detrimental effect to the brain itself.
To the brain.
See,
Right.
now you notice a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't like smoking and alcohol cause problems to the brain. Yeah, it does, but not as bad as those other foods,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Alcohol, intoxicates the body. terrible for the liver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And smoking is depriving you of oxygen. That's
Right.
terrible everywhere. That's why
Mm-hmm.
if you drink it and you smoke itself, I mean, you're kind of doomed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right, so we talked about food. Now let's talk about exercise, right?
Mm,
So Um, we in the past talked about the importance of physical activity in preventing chronic diseases in our,
yes.
previous episodes, right? So,
Yeah.
there was this one neuroscientist. Her name is Dr. Wendy Suzuki, just like the
Mm-hmm.
car. So,
Mm-hmm. Suzuki.
she's right. She said that exercise is the most transformative thing that you can do for your brain today.
Absolutely.
So, how does exercise help our brains?
Okay.
How does it
Great.
help with
So, example,
focus?
if I stand up and I'm
Mm-hmm,
moving, right, and you're doing
mm-hmm,
something called cross crawl, where you're like kind of crawling on one side, crawling back and
mm-hmm,
forth, right? That's one of the top things that you can do, moving your shoulder and hips, because cross crawl initiates a lot of nerve fibers in the shoulders and hips, which sends messages back to the brain. And what it
uh-huh,
does is that it fires the brain. It also promotes better cerebral spinal fluid, which is the fluid that the brain and spinal cord is soaked in to move.
mm,
It's moving the whole body. People who actually get brain injuries, okay, who maybe got struck in the head, concussion, brain injuries,
mm-hmm.
aneurysms, strokes, one of the
You're right.
best exercises that they can do is cross crawl exercises. Okay. This has been listed all over and been documented in thousands of studies
Mm-hmm,
where cross crawl, climbing, right, is one of the best things to do. There was a
mm-hmm,
teenager that had a traumatic brain injury. All right. They call it a TBI, traumatic brain injury, where she fell on her head and it caused damage to part of her brain. Part of her rehab was to crawl around, okay, over the house. Well, as a teenager, she felt like she didn't want to be seen crawling around.
mm-hmm. Of
She had a
course.
little brother, and just aesthetically, she didn't want to look like she's crawling around the house. So,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? Mom, dad, younger brother all decided to crawl around the house with her
Oh, mm-hmm.
for half
Talk
hour
about.
to 2 hours a day. They crawled around the house with her.
Mm-hmm,
You crawl, we crawl. We crawl, you crawl. And what happens is our brain started developing at a much faster rate. See? And if we will only do that, my gosh, the whole spine, the whole body, the brain will start improving drastically. You
mm-hmm,
see, in ways that most people walking, just you won't see that because you're not
mm-hmm.
crawling, you're not moving your
Yours as
arms and
well.
everything, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's huge.
Of course. And Dr. Suzuki also said that, exercise can help produce brand new brain cells,
Mm-hmm.
which increase the brain's volume, which helps improve long-term memory. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. You look at brains of people who've been sitting down and not doing anything, say they watch TV, their brains actually are smaller. Okay. Their physical brain is smaller. What's that term? You don't use it, you lose it. Right. Don't use it, you lose it. So what happens is people who are not utilizing their brains, who are not moving around, cross crawling, whether it's doing Sudoku exercises, playing chess, crossword puzzles, right? That exercises the brain. You see?
And they say that, if you do routinary work, it also, decreases your ability to, have that long-term memory, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
what are
100%.
your recommendations? Talk about exercise. What are your recommendations for brain exercises?
Brain exercises. Well, to
Mm-hmm,
exercise the brain, to really do it, you got to be
mm-hmm,
thinking, right? That's why people who are working are always thinking and they don't really get old. You see a
mm-hmm.
lot of people, they retire, but they don't really retire. The ones who deteriorate the
Yeah.
fastest is the people who retire and they just sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
right? I say if you're not working, do some crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzles, do math problems, play some chess, right? Play games with yourself, with others that induces thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? Go out and mingle with people. One of the quickest way to deterioration of the brain is to cut yourself off from other people. And that's
Isolate
also
yourself.
why during COVID, when a lot of seniors could not connect with other seniors, huge rise in Alzheimer's and dementia because they're no longer
Okay.
to make connections with people. They don't talk
Right.
anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
because they don't connect anymore, they don't feel touch and activate that part of the brain and get emotional about it. Well, the brain starts deteriorating. It's one of the saddest things to see. But you
Mm-hmm.
know what? We've stayed open, thank God, for most of the time. And
Mm-hmm.
people were able to come in and still able to attend their visits and still able to come into our office and talk to our staff, some of our
Mm-hmm.
senior
Right.
patients, because we kept everything COVID compliant here. They said, Dr. Tam, this is the only place I go all week. Thank God you're here. And I said, well, thank God for coming in.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's when you realize that, going outside the house and just do grocery
Yeah.
shopping is something it's like a treat, right? During the
It was a
pandemic.
treat. It was an
So,
absolute treat. And you know what? If it wasn't for our patients that were here,
mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be able to experience that as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
am so proud that our team and myself was able to provide that for our patients and
Mm-hmm.
stay open during that time.
Right, right. All right. And the last question that I have here for you, Dr. Tam, is what are the supplements that you recommend for a healthier brain?
I would say if your brain is really stressed, if you have consistent stressors, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the best things to take is the Canab 600. That's THC free, which has cannabinoids and CBD in it, but there's no THCs. No one's going to get all loopy from marijuana and whatnot.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what people are afraid of.
we don't want that.
No, we won't. We don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll provide a link for the Canab 600. But
Mm-hmm.
also, if you don't have that consistent stress, right, then maybe you just need something called Brain Vital. Brain Vital is a mixture of some of the best supplements for brain memory and high functioning to maintain your brain at a high functioning state.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we should be taking. So
All
those two
right.
things, if you start noticing, I say I recommend that for anyone who's about 60 and above
Mm-hmm.
because you never know, right? It's always preventative is better than proactive, and preventative is always better than not.
Of
So
course.
those are the two things I would definitely recommend. Of course, your multivitamins, your vitamin D, go out, right? Movement,
Get sunlight,
right?
right?
No supplement is going to substitute for that movement. I promise you that.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And at the end of the day, best or the smartest doctor in the room is your body, right? So
Yes.
listen to your
Listen.
body.
You got to listen
Mm-hmm.
to your body. So many people, instead of listening to their body, they listen to somebody else,
Somebody else, right?
right? They're listening to
Yes.
somebody else instead of their own body. And we should be
Mm-hmm.
listening to our body because our bodies are always telling us signs, giving us signs,
Right.
you know?
Of
And
course.
I urge
Mm-hmm.
people, try not to use your GPS for a while, for a month, see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. If
Mm-hmm.
you still remember everywhere that you're trying to go, great. You know, there's been no matter what medication doctors are telling you to do, as of this time, there is no cure for dementia and Alzheimer's. The best
Mm-hmm. Right.
cure
Mm-hmm.
is to do everything that we can to delay Alzheimer's and dementia.
Mm-hmm.
Delay. You can't cure it. You can only delay it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, all of us are going to get it. I hope I get it after I pass away.
All right. And yep. So definitely if since we're not at that stage yet, get that healthy food and exercise and of course your supplements.
Yes.
So thank you so much everyone for listening. Thank you Dr. Tam for answering all of our questions.
Thank you, Rocky.
And we will see you on our next series. Thank you and have a great day.
Have a great day.